So Tesla stock has been pretty much sliding downwards in the last few trading sessions, and this is exactly in sync with what I said was likely to take place in my last few videos. I said that Tesla stock was likely to fall downwards, but I want to go ahead and talk about Tesla today simply because tomorrow is a very notable day for Tesla. We end up getting the delivery numbers, which is a fundamental lens to the company, because once we see what the delivery numbers are looking like, well, then we could say, okay, well, then if we're delivering this many vehicles, this is what we could expect for earnings. And so that's why it's a very notable day. And usually, historically, when we see the delivery numbers come out, that's where we see a huge move for Tesla. And what makes this one even more notable is that when you combine that fundamental aspect of the deliveries coming out and combine that with what we're seeing from a technical perspective, we're in this area where there's little volume relative to price. And when there's little volume relative to price, that means that the order books could easily be pushed upwards or downwards. And you guys could see when we were going upwards during this pocket of volume, we went up pretty fast. And now that we're falling down in this pocket of volume, we're falling down pretty fast. And the reason this happens is because there's not that whole struggle between the buyers and the sellers both buying and selling. When there's very low volume relative to price, and if buyers in the command, then that's going to push the stock upwards. If sellers are in command, well, that could push the stock downwards. Now, you combine that with a notable event like the fundamental lens to deliveries, well, then that's going to have a huge influence on the price action. And so we could potentially see a big day up or a big day down. And I want you to, of course, be prepared and have a plan, right? Regardless if you're someone who's investing for the long term or if you're trading in the short term, right? How are you going to approach tomorrow? Is this going to be a dip buying opportunity, right? It really depends. Someone will say, well, if Tesla stock is falling down tomorrow, I want to sell it. And that's, a great view to have. But someone else may say, well, look, I'm very bullish and optimistic of Tesla in the future. And just because Tesla stock is falling down, I'm going to use this time to go ahead and buy. And so if that's your perspective, then that, of course, that's the best thing you should do. You should always do whatever you see value in. And this video is in no shape or form really to convince you to do anything, right? This is not a buy or sell recommendation. I'm just sharing what I believe is likely to happen and some concerns. Now, I do want to point out something that is a bit concerning in regards to Tesla, and that's this over here that we see about Tesla registrations down 90% in Quebec in the first quarter of 2025. Now, we've talked about brand damage for Tesla a little bit in the last few months, right? We talked about how when Elon Musk had supported the Trump administration, well, then we had a lot of people from the left, a lot of Democrats were like, oh man, I don't like Elon Musk anymore, right? But then we ended up seeing this weird situation, very unique, where Elon Musk started attacking Trump. And by the way, he still is attacking Trump. It's very odd, right? And so he's kind of alienating himself from both the right-wing party and the left, the people on the left, right? So right now, of course, the big deal is the big, beautiful bill, right? Of course, I really hate to delve into politics, but you have to go ahead and pay attention to what's going on, especially if that could influence a particular security, right? Just like geopolitical conflict. I hate talking about wars, right? I hate talking about, Russia, Ukraine, or what's happening in the Middle East. But you guys obviously know that influences the market. Look at oil prices and how that gets influenced through war. And so, what I'm trying to say is the reason I'm trying to talk about politics is it's by far no reason because I want to, but just because it's part of the context, the underlying context. And what we talked about is the brand damage. So Elon Musk, alienated himself, isolated Tesla from people on the left. There was a lot of brand damage, and now we're currently seeing a bit of brand damage on the right because we heard on Truth Social Trump say again, kind of attacking EV vehicles, saying, "Look, I don't think they're horrible, but I don't think we should be forced them. And Elon Musk gets too many subsidies; we should take them away." And that's concerning because they actually are looking to, and these are Republican lawmakers, to actually take away much sooner the subsidies that Tesla gets with the EV tax credit. So that's another issue, right? That's one issue of its own, right? The tax credit's going away much sooner than what we expected. But then on top of that, going back to this part over here, registrations 90% down in Quebec. This is concerning considering the fact that when we parse through this article over here, we see that Quebec is Canada's largest EV market for Tesla as well, including other EVs. But it's the largest in Tesla's market, right? Or for EVs, for Tesla, right? The largest market is what I'm trying to say. And for it to be down 90% is concerning, because when we look at Tesla, look at all the stores that they have in Canada, right? If we counted it, I think it's a little over 30 stores. And so if their main store, their main area is down 90%, what do you think is happening with all these other stores, all these other locations, right? And that's when we kind of delve into the question or the topic of SG&A, which, if you don't know what SG&A is, that's essentially a fundamental term or acronym for selling, general, and administrative expenses. And so that's like the cost of running a company that isn't directly tied to, making a product. So think employee salaries, rent, and utilities. And so if you have all these stores and the largest one is down 90%, we could only imagine that all these other stores are not performing well. And so you have rent that you got to pay for all these brick and mortar locations that aren't generating sales. And so that ties back to the brand, just being tarnished, right? And I know every time I talk about this, someone is in the comment section is going to be like, no, I love Elon Musk even more because of what he's doing. And if that's the case, then congratulations, all power to you. But let's be very realistic, right? Elon Musk has, alienated himself from both parties, right? It's very interesting. I've never seen this before, where people on the left are like, I hate Elon. And then people on the right are like, I hate Elon, especially after Elon pretty much called President Donald Trump a pet. Let me see. I don't want to say that word because we're on YouTube. I'm trying to think. He said that Trump is going to be found on the Jeffrey, I'm not going to say the last name. It rhymes with Lepstein. Documents, and basically Elon Musk said that Trump likes the women very young, right? Very young, too young, problematically young, right? And of course, people on the right base are like, Elon, screw yourself. Like, how are you going to say it? So, you have this conflict of both parties. And again, I hate to delve into the politics, but we have to talk about that. Now, Tesla has been performing lousy year to date, right? It's down 20% year to date. And the overall S&P 500 is up 5% year to date, which, by the way, is a bit lousy as well, in my opinion. My personal portfolio is up a little over 20% year to date for the entire portfolio. And by the way, if you're interested to know what trades I've been taking, what are my thoughts on the overall market, every single day the markets are open, make sure to check out the links down below, because there's going to be a link to join the Push and Profit private group for just $6. And you could cancel at any time. So if you find no value, absolutely. You could say, like, yeah, I lost $6 and maybe I learned something, but I could care less, right? But that's where you get my trade ideas. That's where I talk about the market. And I also have another free alternative, right? This is the institutional playbook. It's a bit advanced, but it's just like a snippet of some of the things I talk about within the Push and Profit private group. All you got to do is put in your email, and we'll go ahead and shoot you some content, some nice little PDFs of how I look at the market from different perspectives, right? From a sense of sentiment perspective, from looking at relative rotation graphs, sector rotations, etc. So if you're interested, make sure to check out the links down below. But again, currently we're at this point with Tesla where there's pocket of volume. By the way, I'm looking at it from a line chart, because sometimes you have to change the type of chart that you're looking at the market with, right? Line charts, Charles Dow, one of the founders of technical analysis, right? The founding father of it. Like line charts because it shows the closing price and it takes away the noise, right? When you're looking at candlesticks, it could get a bit noisy to kind of look at all this, right? Of course, it has much more data than a traditional line chart, but sometimes you need a line chart. It makes it a lot easier, smoother to kind of identify areas of support and resistance, which notice how once we have a lot more volume relative to price, which tends to be an area of support and resistance, that's also where we kind of start to see a little bit of support around over here, 290. So not a coincidence, right? And we know through the principles of polarity, old resistance in the past, right? This used to be a resistance where the stock couldn't break above it, tends to be new support. And so we could possibly see Tesla have bad deliveries and kind of fall down to 290. So we'll have to kind of wait out and see. Again, you do whatever you see value in. If you're like, hey, Justin, I'm really bullish on robo-taxis. I could care less about deliveries for this quarter. If anything, I'm just going to buy more. All power to you. If you're someone who's trading in the short term and you're like, hey, I just want to make a nice profit if Tesla falls down and shorting it, all power to you. And vice versa. Tesla goes up because they have great deliveries, all power to you. Just wanted to share what I'm seeing and a bit of concerns that I have for Tesla. But with that said, hopefully you guys got some value in today's video, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.